Northern California. Scroll up, please. But it was also the time and place of the computer revolution. And in this technology, they saw the opportunity to start their own revolution. The Apple gave an individual the power to do the same things as any company, Wozniak recounts. For the first time ever, one person could take on a corporation simply because they had the ability to use the technology. Wozniak engineered the Apple I, and later the Apple II to be simple enough for people to harness the power of the technology. Jobs knew how to sell it. Thus was born Apple Computer, a company with a purpose to give the individual to power to stand up to established power, to empower the dreamers and the idealists to challenge the status quo and succeed. But their cause, their why, started long before Apple was born. In 1971, working out of Wozniak's dorm room at UC Berkeley, the Steve Jobs, the Steves, the two Steves made something they called the Blue Box. Their little device hacked the phone system to give people the ability to avoid paying long distance rates on their phone bills. Apple computers did not exist yet, but Jobs and Woz were already challenging a big brother type power, in this case, Ma Bell, American Telephony and Telegraph, the monopoly phone company. Technically, what the Blue Box did was illegal, and with no desire to challenge power by breaking the law, Jobs and Woz never actually used the device themselves, but they liked the idea of giving other individuals the ability to avoid having to play by the rules of monopolistic forced a theme that would repeat many more times in Apple's future. On April 1, 1976, they reported their pattern again. They took on the giants of the computer industry, most notably Big Blue IBM. Before the Apple, computing still meant using a punch card to give instructions to a huge mainframe squirreled away in a computer center somewhere. IBM targeted their technology to corporations and not, as Apple intended, as a tool for individuals to target operations. With clarity of purpose and emerging discipline, Apple Computer success seemed to follow the law of diffusion almost by design. In its first year in business, the company sold $1 million worth of computers to those who believed what they believed. By year two, they had sold 10 million worth. By their third year in business, they were a 100 million company, and they attained billion dollar status within only 6 years. The origins of a Y. Already a household name, in 1984, Apple launched the Macintosh with their famed 1984 commercial that aired during the Super Bowl, directed by Ridley Scott, famed director of cult classics like Blade Runner. The commercial also changed the course of the advertising industry. The first Super Bowl commercial, it ushered in the annual tradition of big budget cinematic Super Bowl advertising. With the Macintosh, Apple once again changed the tradition of how things were done. They challenged the standard of Microsoft DOS, the standard operating system used by most personal computers at the time. The Macintosh was the first market mass market computer to use a graphical user interface and a mouse, allowing people to simply point and click rather than input code. Ironically, it was Microsoft that took Apple's concept to the masses with Windows. Gates' version of the graphical user interface, Apple's ability to ignite revolutions, and Microsoft's ability to take ideas to the mass market perfectly illustrate the why of each company and indeed their respective founders. Jobs has always been about challenge, and Gates has always been about getting to the most people. Apple would continue to challenge with other products that follow the same pattern. Recent examples include the iPod and, more significantly, iTunes. With these technologies, Apple challenged the status quo business model of the music industry, an industry so distracted trying to protect its intellectual property and their outdated business model that it was busy suing 13-year-old music pirates while Apple redefined the online music market. The pattern repeated again when Apple introduced the iPhone. The status quo dictated that the cellular providers and not the phone manufacturer decide the features and capabilities of the actual phones. T-Mobile, Verizon Wireless, and Sprint, for example, tell Motorola, LG, and Nokia what to do. Apple changed all that when they announced that with the iPhone, they would be telling the provider what the phone would do. Ironically, the company that Apple challenged with their blue box decades before, this time around exhibited classic early adopter behavior. AT&T was the only one to agree to this new model, and so another revolution was ignited. Apple's keen aptitude for innovation is born out of its why, and, save for the years Jobs was missing, it has never changed since the company was founded. Industries holding on to legacy business models should be forewarned. You could be next. If Apple stays true to their why, the television and movie industries will likely be next. Apple's ability to do what they do has nothing to do with industry expertise. All computer and technology companies have open access to talent and resources and are just as qualified to produce all the products Apple does. It has to do with a purpose, cause, or belief that started many years ago with a couple of idealists in Cupertino, California. I want to put a ding in the universe, as Steve Jobs put it. And that is exactly what Apple does in the industries in which it competes. Apple is born out of its founders' why. There is no difference between one or the other. Apple is just one of the words to Jobs and Woz why. The personalities of Jobs and Apple are exactly the same. In fact, the personalities of all those who are viscerally drawn to Apple are familiar. There is no difference between an Apple customer and an Apple employee. One believes in Apple's why and chooses to work for the company, and the other believes in Apple's why and chooses to buy its products. It is just a behavioral difference. Loyal shareholders are no different either. What they buy is different, but the reason they buy and remain loyal is the same. The products of the company become symbols of their own identities. The diehards outside the company are said to be a part of the cult of Apple. The diehards inside the company are said to be a part of the cult of Steve. Their symbols are different, but their devotion to the cause is the same. That we use the word cult implies that we can recognize that there is a deep faith, something irrational, that all those who believe share, and we would be right. Jobs, his company, his loyal employees, and his loyal customers all exist to push the boundaries. They all fancy a good revolution. Just because Apple's why is so clear does not mean everyone is drawn to it. Some people like them and some don't. Some people embrace them and some are repelled by them. But it cannot be denied, they stand for something. The law of diffusion says that only 2.5% of the population has an innovator mentality. They are a group of people willing to trust their intuition and take greater risks than others. Perhaps it is no coincidence that Microsoft Windows sits on 96% of the world's computers, whereas Apple maintains about 2.5%. Most people don't want to challenge the status quo. Though Apple employees will tell you the company's success lies in its products, the fact is that a lot of companies make quality products, and though Apple's employees may still insist that their products are better, it depends on the standard by which you are judging them. Apple's products are indeed best for those who relate to Apple's why. It is Apple belief that comes through in all they think, say, and do that makes them who they are. They are so effective at it. They are able to clearly identify their own products simply by preceding the product name with the letter I. But they don't just own the letter, they own the word I. They are a company that champions the creative spirit of the individual, and their products, services, and marketing simply prove it. Somebody want to take up?
Yeah, Manishi, if you want, can continue or I'll read.
Yeah, you take up now. Yeah, you go ahead. Thank
Mansi, you want? Rajesh ji?
No. I won't
Anjali,
read. I
please
will just
proceed. Anjali, ma'am,
Okay.
you can proceed.
The why comes from looking back. Conservative estimates put the number to 3 at 3 to 1, but some historians have said the English army was outnumbered by 6 to 1. Regardless of which estimates you choose to believe, the prospects for Henry V, King of England, did not look good. It was late October in the year 1415, and the English army stood ready to do battle against a much bigger French force at Agincourt in northern France. But the numbers were just one of Henry's problems. The English army had marched over 250 miles, taking them nearly 3 weeks, and had lost nearly 40% of their original numbers to sickness. The French, in stark contrast, were better rested and in much better spirits. The better trained and more experienced French were also excited at the prospect of exacting their revenge on the English to make up for the humiliation of previous defeats. And to top it all off, the French were vastly better equipped. The English were lightly armored, but whatever protection they did have was no match for the superior weight of the French armor. But anyone who knows their medieval European history already knows the outcome of the Battle of Agincourt. Despite of overwhelming odds, the English won. The English had one vital piece of technology that was able to confound the French and start a chain of events that would ultimately result in a French defeat. The English had the longbow, a weapon with astounding range for its time. Standing far from the battlefield, far enough away that heavy armor was not needed, the English could look down into the valley and shower the French with arrows. But technology and range aren't what give an arrow its power. By itself, an arrow is a flimsy stick of wood with a sharpened tip and some feathers. By itself, an arrow cannot stand up to a sword or penetrate armor. What gives an armor the ability to take on experience, training, numbers, and armor is momentum. That flimsy stick of wood, when hurtling through the air, becomes a force only when it is moving fast in one direction. But what does the Battle of Agincourt have to do with finding your why? Before it can gain any power or achieve any impact, an arrow must be pulled backward, 180 degrees away from the target, and that's also where a why drives its power. The why does not come from looking ahead at what you want to achieve and figuring out an appropriate strategy to get there. It is not born out of any market research. It does not come from extensive interviews with customers or even employees. It comes from looking in the completely opposite direction from where you are now. Finding why is a process of discovery, not invention. Just as Apple's why developed during the rebellious 1960s and 70s, the why for every other individual or organization comes from the past. It is born out of the upbringing and life experience of an individual or a small group. Every single person has a why, and every single organization has one too. An organization, don't forget, is one of the what's, one of the tangible things a founder or group of founders has done in their lives to prove their why. Every company, organization, or group with the ability to inspire starts with a person or small group of people who were inspired to do something bigger than themselves. Gaining clarity of why, ironically, is not the hard part. It is the discipline to trust one's guts, to stay true to one's purpose, cause, or beliefs. Remaining completely in balance and authentic is the most difficult part. The few that are able to build a megaphone and not just a company around their cause are the ones who earn the ability to inspire. In doing so, they harness a power to move people that few can even imagine. Learning the why of a company or an organization or understanding the why of any social movement always starts with one thing: you. I am a failure. There are 3 months indelibly printed in my memory. September to December 2005. This was when I hit rock bottom. I started my business in February 2002 and it was incredibly exciting. I was full of piss and vinegar, as my grandfather would say. From an early age, my goal was to start my own business. It was the American dream, and I was living it. My whole feeling of self worth came from the fact that I did it. I took the I took the plunge, and it felt amazing. If anyone ever asked me what I did, I would pose like George Reeves from the old Superman TV series. I would put my hands on my hips, stick out my chest, stand at an angle, and with my head raised high, I would declare, I am an entrepreneur. What I did was how I defined myself, and it felt good. I wasn't like Superman, I was Superman. As anyone who starts a business knows, it is a fantastic race. There is a statistic that hangs over your head. Over 90% of all new businesses fail in the first 3 years. For anyone with even a bit of a competitive spirit in them, especially for someone who defines himself or herself as an entrepreneur, hands on hips, chest out, standing at a slight angle, these overwhelming odds of failure are not intimidating. They only add fuel to the fire. The foolishness of thinking that you are a part of a small minority of those who actually will make it past 3 years and defy the odds is part of what makes entrepreneurs who they are, driven by passion and completely irrational. After year one, we celebrated. We hadn't gone out of business. We were beating the odds. We were living the dream. 2 years passed, then 3 years. I'm still not sure how we did it. We never properly implemented any good systems and processes. But to heck with it, we had beaten the odds. I had achieved my goal, and that's all that mattered. I was now a proud member of a very small group of people who could say with statistical proof that I was an American small business owner. The fourth year would prove to be very different. The novelty of being an entrepreneur had worn off. I no longer stood like George Reeves. When asked what I did, I would now tell people that I did positioning and strategy consulting. It was much less exciting and it certainly didn't feel like a big race anymore. It was no longer a passionate pursuit, it was just a business. And the reality was that the business did not look that rosy. We were never a runaway success. We made a living, but not much more. We had some Fortune 500 clients and we did good work. I was crystal clear on what we did. And I could tell you how we were different, how we did it. Like everyone else in the game, I would try to convince prospective clients how we did it, how we were better, how our ways were unique, it was and it was hard work. The truth is, we beat the odds because of my energy, not because of my business acumen. But I didn't have the energy to sustain that strategy for the rest of my life. I was aware enough to know that we needed better systems and processes if the business was to sustain itself. I was incredibly demoralized. Intellectually, I could tell you what I needed to do, I just couldn't do it. By September 2005, I was the closest I have ever been to, if I wasn't already completely depressed. My whole life had been a pretty happy go lucky guy, so just being unhappy was bad enough. This was worse. The depression made me paranoid. I was convinced I was going to go out of business. I was convinced I was going to be evicted from my apartment. I was certain anyone who worked for me didn't like me and that my clients knew I was a fraud. I thought everyone I met was smarter than me. I thought everyone I met was better than me. Any energy I had left to sustain the business now went into propping myself up and pretending that I was doing well. If things were to change, I knew I needed to learn to implement more structure before everything crashed. I attended conferences, read books, and asked successful friends for advice on how to do it. It was all good advice, but I couldn't hear it. No matter what I was told, all I could hear was that I was doing everything wrong. Trying to fix the problem didn't make me feel better, it made me feel worse. I felt more helpless. I started having desperate thoughts, thoughts that for an entrepreneur are almost worse than suicide. I thought about getting a job, anything that would stop the feeling of falling I had almost every day. I remember visiting the family of my future brother in law for Thanksgiving that year. I sat on the couch in the living room of his mother's house. People were talking to me, but I never heard a word. If I was asked questions, I replied only to platitudes. I didn't really desire or even have the ability to make conversation anymore. It was then that I realized the truth. Statistics notwithstanding, I was a failure. As an anthropology major in college and a strategy guy in the marketing and advertising world, I had always been curious about why people do the things they do. Earlier in my career, I started becoming curious about these same themes in the real world. In my case, corporate marketing. There is an odd saying in the industry that 50% of all marketing works. The problem is which 50%? I was always astounded that so many companies would operate with such a level of uncertainty. Why would anyone want to leave the success of something that costs so much, with so much at stake, to the flip of a coin? I was convinced that if some marketing worked, it was possible to figure out why. All companies of equal resources have equal access to the same agencies, the same talent, and the same media. So, why does some marketing work and some doesn't? Working in an ad agency, I had seen it all the time. With conditions relatively equal, the same team could develop a campaign that would be hugely successful one year, then develop something the next year that would do nothing. Instead of focusing on the stuff that didn't work, I chose to focus on the stuff that worked to find out what it all had in common. The good news for me was there was not much to study. How has Apple been able to so consistently outmarket their competition over and over and over? What did Harley Davidson do so well that they were able to create a following of people so loyal that they would tattoo a corporate logo on their bodies? Why did people love Southwest Airlines so much? They aren't really that special, are they? In an attempt to codify why these worked, I developed a simple concept I called the golden circle. But my little theory sat buried in my computer files. It was a little pet project with no real application, just something I found interesting. It would be months later that I met a woman at an event who took an interest in my perspectives in marketing. Victoria Duffy Hopper grew up in an academic family and also had a lifelong fascination with human behavior. She was the first to tell me about the limbic brain and the neocortex. My curiosity piqued by what she was telling me. I started reading about the biology of the brain, and it was then that I made the real discovery. The biology of human behavior and the golden circle overlapped perfectly. While I was trying to understand why some marketing worked and some didn't, I had tripped over something vastly more profound. I discovered why people do what they do. It was it was then that I realized what was the real cause of my stress. The problem wasn't that I didn't know what to do or how to do it. The problem was I had forgotten why. I had gone through what I now know is a split, and I needed to rediscover my why. So, Pranavi wants to read from here.
Yeah, good morning to all.
Yeah.
Just a moment. To inspire people to do the things that inspire them. Henry Ford said, if you think you can or you think you cannot, you're right. He was a brilliant why guy who changed the way industry works. A man who embodied all the characteristics of a great leader who understood the importance of perspective. I was not any dumber than I was when I started my business. Probably the opposite, in fact. What I had lost was perspective. I knew what I was doing, but I had forgotten why. There is a difference between running with all your heart with your eyes closed and running with your all your heart with your eye wide open. For 3 years, my heart had pounded, but my eyes had been closed. I had passion and energy, but I lacked focus and direction. I needed to remember what inspired my passion. I became obsessed with the concept of why. I was consumed by the idea of it. It was all I talked about. When I looked back to my upbringing, I discovered a remarkable theme. Whether among friends, at school, or professionally, I was always the eternal optimist. I was the one who inspired everyone to believe they could do whatever they wanted. This pattern is my why, to inspire. It didn't matter if I was doing it in marketing or consulting. It didn't matter what types of companies I worked with or in which industries I worked. To inspire people to do the thing that inspired them so that together we can change the world. That's the path to which my life and my work is now completely devoted. Henry Ford would have been proud of me. After months of thinking, just scroll up. I couldn't now, I knew I could. I made myself a guinea pig for the concept. If the reason I hit rock bottom was because my golden circle was out of balance, then I needed to get in back in balance. If it was important to start with why, then I would start with why in everything I did. There is not a single concept in this book that I don't practice. I stand at the mouth of my megaphone and I talk about the why to anyone who will listen. Those early adopters who hear my cause see me as a tool in their arsenal to achieve their own why. And they introduced me to others whom they believed I could inspire. And so the law of diffusion started to do its job. Though the golden circle and the concept of why was working for me, I wanted to show it to others. I had a decision to make. Do I try to patent it, protect it, and use it to make lots of money, or do I give it away? This decision was to be my first salary test. My why is to inspire people to do the things that inspire them. And if I am to be authentic to that cause, there was only one decision to make: to give it away, to talk about it, to share it. There would never be any secret sauce or special formula for which only I knew the ingredients. The vision is to have every person and every organization know their why and use it to benefit all they do. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm relying entirely on the concept of why and the naturally occurring pattern, that is the golden circle, to help me get there. The experiments start to work. Prior to starting with why, I had been invited to give one public speech in my life. Now I get between 30 and 40 invitations per year from all sorts of audiences all over the world to speak about the golden circle. I speak to audiences of entrepreneurs, large corporations, non-profits in politics and government. I have spoken at the Pentagon to the Chief of Staff and the Secretary of the Air Force. Prior to the Golden Circle, I didn't even know anyone in the military. Prior to starting with why, I had never been on television. In fewer than 2 years, I started getting regular invitations to appear on MSNBC. I have worked with members of Congress, having never done any government or political work prior to starting with Y. I am the same person. I know the same things I did before. The only difference is now I start with Y. Like Gordon Betton, who turned around Continental with the same people and the same equipment, I was able to turn things around with the things I already knew and did. I'm not better connected than everyone else. I don't have a better work ethic. I don't have an Ivy League education, and my grades in college were average. The funniest part is I still don't know how to build a business. The only thing that I do that most people don't is I learned how to start with why. The new competition. If you follow your why, the others will follow you. Bang! The gun fires and the race is on. The runners take off across the field. It rained the day before and ground is still damp. The temperature is cool. It is a perfect day for running. The lines of runners quickly forms a pack. Like a school of fish, they come together as one. They move as one. The pack sets a pace to maximize their energies for the whole race. As with any race, yeah, just a moment. Yeah, as with any race, in a short period of time, the stronger ones will start to pull ahead and the weaker ones will start to fall behind. But not Ben Common. Ben was left behind as soon as the starter gun sounded. Ben's not the fast runner on the team. In fact, he's the slowest. He has never won a single race the entire time he has been on Hana High School cross country track team. Ben, you see, has cerebral palsy. Cerebral palsy, a condition often caused by complications at birth, affects someone's movement and balance. The physical problems endure for a lifetime. Misshapen spines create a twisted posture. Muscles are often withered and motor reflexes slow. Tightness in the muscles and joints also affect balance. Those with CP often have an unsteady gait. Their knees knock and their feet drag. To an outsider, they seem clumsy or even broken. The pack pulls farther and farther ahead while Ben falls farther and farther behind. He slips on the wet grass and falls forward into the soft earth. He slowly picks himself up and keeps going. Down he goes again. This time it hurts. He gets back up and keeps running. Ben won't quit. The pack is now out of sight and Ben is running alone. It is quiet. He can hear his own labored breathing. He feels lonely. He trips over his own feet again and down he goes yet another time. No matter his mental strength, there is no hiding the pain and frustration on his face. He grimaces as he uses all his energy to pull himself back to his feet to continue running. For Ben, this is part of the routine. Everyone else finishes the race in about 25 minutes. It usually takes Ben more than 35 minutes. When Ben eventually crosses the finish line, he is in pain and he is exhausted. It took every ounce of strength he had to make it. His body is bruised and bloodied. He is covered in mud. Ben inspires us indeed, but this is not a story of when going get tough, the tough gets going. This is not a story of when you fall down, pick yourself up. Those are great lessons to learn without a doubt. But we don't need Ben Common to teach us these lessons. There are dozens of others we can look for that, like an Olympic athlete, for example, who suffered an injury just months before the games only to come back to win a medal. Ben's lesson is deeper. Something amazing happens after about 25 minutes. When everybody else is done with their race, everyone comes back to run with Ben. Ben is the only runner who, when he falls, someone else will help pick him up. Ben is the only runner who, when he finishes, has hundreds of people running behind him. When Ben teaches us is special, when you compete against everyone else, no one wants to help you. But when you compete against yourself, everyone wants to help you. Olympic athletes don't help each other, they are competitors. Ben starts every race with a very clear sense of why he is running. He is not there to beat anyone but himself. Ben never loses sight of that. His sense of why he is running gives him the strength to keep going, to keep pushing, to keep getting up, to keep going, and to do it again and again and again. And every day he runs, the only time Ben sets out to beat is his own. Now think about how we do business. We are always competing against someone else. We are always trying to be better than someone else. Better quality, more features, better service. We are always comparing ourselves to others. And no one wants to help us. What if we showed up to work every day simply to be better than ourselves? What if the goal was to do better work this week than we did the week before? To make this month better than the last month? For no other reason than because we want to leave the organization in a better state than we found it. All organizations start with why, but only the great ones keep their why clear year after year. Those who forget why they were founded show up to the race every day to outdo someone else instead to do outdo themselves. The pursuit for those who lose sight of why they are running the race is for the medal or to beat someone else. What if the next time when someone asks, "Who is your competition?" we replied, "No idea." What if the next time someone pushes, "Well, what makes you better than your competition?" we replied, "We are not better than them in all cases." And what if the next time someone asks, "Well, why should I do business with you then?" We answer with confidence because the work we are doing now is better than the work we were doing 6 months ago. And the work we will be doing 6 months from now will be better than the work we are doing today. Because we wake up every day with a sense of why we can come to work. We come to work to inspire people to do the things that inspire them. Are we better than our competition? If you believe what we believe and you believe that the things we do can help you, then we are better. If you don't believe what we believe and you don't believe the things we can do will help you, then we are not better. Our goal is to find customers who believe what we believe and work together so that we can all succeed. We are looking for people to stand shoulder to shoulder with us in pursuit of the same goal. We are not interested in sitting across a table from each other in pursuit of a sweeter deal. And here are the things we are doing to advance our cause. And then the details of how and what you do follow. But this time it started with why. Imagine if every organization started with why. Decisions would be simpler, loyalties would be greater, trust would be a common currency. If your leaders were diligent about starting with why, optimism would reign and innovation would thrive. As this book illustrates, there is precedence for this standard. No matter the size of organization, No matter the industry, no matter the product or the service, if we all take some responsibility to start with why and inspire others to do the same, then together we can change the world. And that's pretty inspiring. If this book inspired you, please pass it on to someone you want to inspire.
Thank you, Ravi, ma'am. Thank you
Right.
for reading. Thank
Yes.
you, Anjali.
Welcome.
With this, we come to end of the book. I think this book, I think, ended with that very high note. I really like that one. There's a line about the competition is not someone. I think the competition is within self. That's one. What is that line?
Yes, that's exactly the crux of what we have read.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for successfully completing the book. Let me. Today we have read two chapters. The chapter 13 was the origins of why. Again, we have read that the why it is impacting that organizations. I think again we have read. I think the entire book. I think we read about that Apple and then the product and then the purpose and why people are why why the company is so focused and how they are making employees to focus and how they are making people to the buyer to buy more or buy the products. And the chapter ending with a nice story about the person who started running and focusing on himself to focusing on the why part, why he's running and inspiring others. Yes, from today's reading, anyone would like to share your thoughts or your takeaway from this book? I would like to inform you that with this, we have completed reading this book, all these chapters, and tomorrow we are connecting again to discuss overall. We are not going to read anything, but let's discuss the entire book for that one day. Let's dedicate for tomorrow. So please join sharp at 7 a.m. so that we can start and the 1 hour we can discuss about it. What were the key takeaway from this book? uh, if you want to come with some preparations or something, if you want to present something, please you do that any small one, say 1 or 2 slides plus a slide presentation, or you can come freely. I think you can come and share what is your takeaway from this book for tomorrow. Now let's discuss about the chapters what we have read today. The new competition, the chapter 13, the origins of why, and the chapter 14, the new competition. Over to you. Please, you start sharing your takeaway from today's reading.
Yeah, good morning to all.
Yep.
Yeah, what I felt was, the chapters which we have discussed before were just asking us to explore our why. Right now, this last chapter, what I felt was exploring why is quite good, but then we being human beings, when we get into the part of success, we may deviate ourselves from the why factor, and we start focusing on something else like the money, the growth, the fame, or whatever. So here the author has trained our brains in such a way that he has explained very beautifully that it's it's a good thing that you have explored your why. You should also know how to protect that why. In the sense, he's somewhere conveying us that, I mean, the book is conveying to me that this particular why should be protected at a higher standards, and you should always be true to that why person, the why factor, because the more you are true to it, the more you will be away from the deviations. And he has told this in a very beautiful way, that if you're in the the track of competition, and if you're in the track of the other factors, you would be away from the authenticity of your own why. The originality of your why will be definitely lost in that particular deviations. So you should always be aware that how true you are to the factor of why. And the other thing what he was trying to tell is, he's always trying to say that exploring your own why and protecting your why is not only the biggest part. The other part is you have to send or the propagate this why factor to the other generations as well. This legacy should be continued. So in order to follow that particular legacy, you have to create the strong standards and the strong culture, strong values behind your why factor, forgetting all the rest of things which the world is demanding from you. You have to be absolutely true to your purpose. And the best example is, yesterday in the evening I was just so my husband has just switched on about the Kantara's feedback or whatever. The feedback was that the director of Kantara never worked on the competition. He literally tried to depict his own values and the culture of his own village, and he was so true to that particular concept and that particular thing that he just focused on the essence of it, forgetting about the trends, forgetting about the glimpses of the movie and all that. He literally worked on how his village was there, and literally he has shooten the film in his village itself, and most of the characters are from his village only. That shows that how authentic he was about the why factor. He literally focused on how his village culture and the values existed over there. So that beauty has really hit the hearts of the people around. So I don't know, I mean, whenever I read this, this is the condition I have faced it. Thank you all.
Thank you, Pranavi. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for connecting that part with that the recent happening or the discussion at family. Yeah, in this book, I think there is finding why is a process of discovery, not a invention. As Pranavi said, I think when we started it, something organization over the period with the it changes the process. I think it changes the directions. Okay, looking at that profit or looking at that inventing something a new product, then the core value or why we started it might get diluted. Then it loses the identification or loses the purpose. Again, we have to revalue. Again, we have to come back where we are standing and why we are doing it, so that the reevaluation or self-evaluation or the self-awareness is more important, whether it is an organization or that the individual. Why we have started, or are we in the right direction, or have we changed directions since when we started? So self-awareness, self-evaluation and self-awareness is more important to be that the core value. Anyone would like to share something? I think what you got inspired from today's reading, or what lines, or the what incident, which part you like the most from
So
today's chapter?
I would like
Yeah,
to speak, Rajeshi. So actually, I like the part where Ben was trying to participate in the race and he was finding it very hard, but he continued with the why. His why was, his purpose was to run. And when he was falling again and again, people were not supporting because he was in a competition. But later on, he saw when he was striving, he was struggling, people started following him, they started supporting him. So the message carried over here is that if we are holding the why properly, if we are holding it strongly, and we are with the purpose, we are inspiring others. What clicked me was, with the why, if we are holding the why, what and how follows. And that is like, we should be clear with the purpose in an organization, or if we want to lead something, if we want to start, the why should be clear, and then automatically, as the golden circle says, it follows, how and what follows. The beginning should be from the why, from the invert to outside. It is to be why, how and what, and then everything goes smooth. The purpose should be clear, and it should be like continuously inspirational to the team as well. And that is how the loyalty also remains there, it is intact, and people survive together. It is like the why is that strong, then everything follows. It aligns in the line. It goes in the way the person wants to be. It wants to take forward. That's all. His message is to be very clear and strongly propagated to the team, and that is how it follows, how and what follows. So I like the example of Ben. It was very clear that if you are holding your why, if you are consistent with your pursuit, if you are if you are striving, everyone will support you. But if you are depending on others, people might not support. They won't see the why, and it is to be shown to the others that this is why I am trying to strive, and just people will help you. This is how, like, I understood.
Thanks, Anjali. Thank you so much for sharing. I would like to share an incident recently, like similar to that Ben, the incident. Last month, 21st, I participated a half marathon event. It is almost a decade back. I was participating. I think I used to run for the 10 kilometer, but in that mission of I think I have to complete the marathon run of 42 kilometers. I tried that half marathon last month. I did that last year as well, 10 years back as well, but that time I could not enjoy and I was not able to run or I was not able to, process was very tough. I was slowing or I was walking. This time, when I started my run, I decided that not to stop anywhere, not to walk. You just jog. Don't sprint or don't push hard. Even if it's very slow steps, do jog, don't walk. That was the thing clear in my mind. The reason is I think I wanted to complete with that specific timeline. I want to complete. I started running. It's a 21-kilometer run. At the end of 8 kilometers, I was done. I was not able to push myself. But still, the one which I have decided, I don't want to stop it. I think keep on moving on. I was pushing at the 12 kilometers, 16 kilometers. And I was keep on jogging, whether it's slow or something. Then I was able to complete my run around the 2 hours, 30 minutes. So at that moment, I think, there are 10,000 people have been, 10,000 people have participated in that run. And many people went ahead. I did not bother about that. I think they are running faster than me. I have to chase them. Or some people, I think they are walking and they were not able to walk and they just lie down or they were not able to move. Yeah, I also see that one as well. But I push myself and I was just keep on walking. I keep on jogging and keep on running. The why part, I think I have decided that okay, I should not stop it. That was in my mind. That pushes me to complete or continuing. Though it was a struggle and though it was a pain, it pushed me to complete that run and completing that run without stopping anywhere. Yeah, I was able to complete that run for the 2 hours, 30 minutes for the half marathon. It is not a very good number. I think there are people completing it in 1.5 hours time, or there's 1 hour 40 minutes time. So that was a normal time. But I was happy that I was able to run and I was able to control. I was able to run without stopping, without walking. So that I was able to connect with that the Ben story today. He was pushing himself. I think he's not competing with somebody else. Even he was least bothered about that person who completes 25 minutes when he completes 35, 40 minutes. But pushing. That's really interesting. And thank you so much for sharing my experience in this opportunity. Is there anybody else who would like to share? Any
I
thoughts?
would like to add one more thing. Rajeshji, I read the part that I'm a failure. So it also conveys the message, as you also related the same part, I think, that the failure or slowing down is not a failure as such. It is just a time to introspect, or it is a time to think about the why, about the purpose. And that is the time when we get the clarity of our purpose. So real achievement is when we achieve our why. It is that fulfillment, the feeling of fulfillment comes when we achieve the why. And this is what should be the main focus. Otherwise, wow, and how and what it goes, they are a different means to achieve the why, but the exact fulfillment comes only when we achieve our purpose, whatever it is, and no matter how much time it takes, but we should be consistent with the why.
Yeah, Anjali. I think compared to other why, what, how, but this why is going to play major role in our brain or something, in our motivation or inspiring us or something. How to do, what to do, and all those things. Yeah, it's okay. That is the skill and over the period and how we are going to make changes. But the real intention, the real push, or the real the motivator, the kicker, the why. So whatever we do or any activities, I think even something we are small things also we are doing it. If we understand, if we know that the core value of why we are doing it, but I think the obstacles, whatever coming up, or whatever challenges coming up, that is not going to stop us. For example, if you are not having the clear purpose of the why, we start something, maybe someone criticize, or someone tease, or someone say something, or some challenges we face, that will pull us down, and that will stop us to do further. But when we clear with this part, that will push us to complete or move ahead. Yeah. Anyone have any other thoughts? Please, Mansi, Viren, Manish J, would like to share anything? Why we are so silent today?
Okay. I would like to give one example. Acha,
Yeah.
Manish ji, you please speak. No one was speaking, so I said.
Oh, I'm driving. You please go ahead. I will go after you. You go ahead, please. I will.
Just one very small example. See, this reminded me of MS Dhoni, how much he was opposed to go for the cricket. But like his parents were forcing him to get into a government job. But then also he said, no, my why is clear. I want to become a cricketer. And so the way he was holding it, the way he was having a clear thought, the purpose in his life. So I think that why was so strong, how the success follows, and that story everyone knows how he had been the best in the world. So I think this is a very good example that why should be very clear, and nothing can slow us down to achieve that success. The time doesn't matter, but why is something that really gives us whatever we want, and that fulfillment comes with that why. So MS Dhoni, it was such a huge example, such a great example for this thing. That's all. Manishi, please go ahead.
Hello, Manish Ji. Would you like to share anything? Okay, fine. Viren, would you like to share anything? Okay, let's call for the day, and tomorrow let's join again at 7 a.m. for the morning to discuss detail about this entire book. So whatever inspired you, whatever you got, or whatever the changes or whatever you're going to apply from this learning to in your day-to-day life, please you come with some small preparations and you can come and share it. Uh, see you all tomorrow morning once again. Thank you so much for joining this studio session.
Thank you.
Thank you all. You all
Thank
have a
you,
great day.
Rajesh.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Yeah. So today's also we'll discuss tomorrow only, na, Rajesh?